Welcome back to the flight deck. It's dawn over the United Arab Emirates, and we're descending toward the famous Dubai airport. If you haven't already done so, load the flight now so you can follow along. This CATIII Autoland section will be a sharp contrast from the ILS section, as this time you won't take over the airplane until you're ready to pull off the runway. You deserve a break after that ILS section. That hand-flown ILS took quite a bit of concentration, but this one is actually no different. We'll just be focusing our attention on enunciations rather than the constant scan you're used to. In other words, this section is easy on the muscles, but hard on the mind. You'll be doing the airbag checklist again. You guessed, it's going to be something you'll do on every approach, no matter the complexity. Let's grab the ATIS off the chart and see what we can expect upon arrival. Dial in 131.7 as seen on the chart, or, if you want, grab the ATIS from the internet. Dubai International Airport, Information Bravo, 0216 Zulu. Wind 145 at 10 knots, visibility 3/4 of a mile, RVR 3200, ceiling 100 overcast, temperature 21, dew point 20. Altimeter 977 hectopascal. Expect ILS 12 left. Report on initial contact you have information Bravo. Note the winds are right quartering at 10 knots, the visibility is less than a mile, and the ceilings are low. This is going to be a wild approach. At this stage you could also set the altimeter, which you should do, but that is shown later in the airbag checklist as well. It's now time for the install, which is the eye in airbag. Bring up the FMC and let's do the T install. First in the T install, as always, is the initialization and reference page. Press that key to bring you to the page. Press the line select key next to the flap and speed setting you'd like, copying it in the scratch pad, then press line select key 4 right to drop it in. Now that we have that done, let's jump over to the departure arrival function key. We'll be doing the ILS 12 left today, so select that. Once you see the transitions pop up, select Namru, which we are currently headed toward, and is also our initial approach fix, and then press execute to link everything up. Now going down the middle of the T, select the legs page. Let's make sure here we don't have any discontinuities. After hitting next page, you'll even notice that our hold is conveniently there for us in case we have to do a missed approach. Last in the T is the NAVRAD page. Jump in here and let's check our ILS frequency in 4 left against the chart. 110.1 and a course of 120 will be what we need for the ILS today based on the chart, and that looks just great in the FMC. This is an important cross-check you always need to do with an ILS. Now bring the altitude down to 2000, because as you can see on the chart's profile view, we will intercept the glide slope at 2000 feet. Arm the localizer mode. We do this so we don't capture the glide slope early and descend into unprotected airspace. This way you can have more control over your descents and performance, as well as keeping in line with any procedure requirements. Speaking of performance, let's now get to flaps 1 plus 10 knots. You know the drill. Change the speed and hit the flaps to assist in the slowdown. Now we will be in a shallow descent toward 2000 feet while we slow down. R in airbag stands for radios. We're going to do the same thing as we did in the ILS section. Turn on the mic and listen for DIT dots while we look at the identifier on the chart. That's the one, we got it. So now turn the selector to marker, because as you see on the chart, we do have an inner marker that will let us know we're getting very close, usually half a nautical mile. B in the airbag checklist stands for brief. First of all, I'm assuming you won't be sitting in front of your flight simulator computer, talking to yourself as if you were talking to your first officer. Your family or friends may become quite concerned if they see this. Because this is a lengthy procedure, please visit our forum for any additional information on each step. It would be much easier to do this before you descend, because there is more time to discuss and run through in your head what will be done. Right now it's a bit rushed. Let's jump right into that approach descent checklist, which is the last A in airbag. Do your recall on the ICAS, check for any unsolved issues. Check your FMC speeds one last time. This will be marked as VREF on the speed tape. This speed is important as it ensures our profile view to the runway is easy and controlled, while at the same time assuring we're not doing a high-speed flyby of the airport. Now set the auto brakes to a level of 3. Approach descent checklist complete. We're stable at 2,000 feet, so let's go ahead and arm the approach mode on the MCP. Verify 2 things now. 1. That all 3 autopilots are armed. 2. Verify the glide slope is armed in the flight mode annunciator. UMALI will approximately be where we intercept the glide slope, so now is a good time to get to flaps 10 plus 10 knots. Nothing fancy, just a speed and flaps change like any other. Let's do the last 2 parts of the airbag checklist quick. First is the last A, which in reality is 2 A's the way we do it. This will be your altimeter. Press B on the keyboard or set the correct ATIS setting manually to set the altimeter. G stands for go around. Make sure the go around thrust mode is active above the N1s on the ICAS. In essence, this is just another ILS approach like the last one we did, only this time we'll be doing an Autoland. You say to yourself, duh Chris, I already knew that. What I mean by this is the gear and final flaps will be brought in the exact same way. So, as that dot starts to move down on the glide slope indication, you'll do exactly as you did before. At the lower dot, bring the gear down and get to flaps 20 plus 10 knots, just 10 knots lower from where you are now. Very quickly, the glide slope intercept will come in. This is where you'll get to final flaps and your final approach speed, which in this case is 147 because we have a 10 knot headwind. This is where the Autoland approach truly separates itself from the others. The only thing you'll be doing now is cross-checking that everything for an Autoland is operating correctly as we come on down. Dan and I will present this as a crew communication, but you'll have to take these communications and turn them into single pilot operating procedures. 1,500 feet and below, there will be a call out from the first officer.
1,500, land 3 active. Flare and rollout is armed and that cross checks.
Here, the first officer notifies the captain that he sees that land 3, just above the attitude indicator, is active. He also notes that flare and rollout are armed on the flight mode annunciator. Now, on the ND, you may choose to have it in map mode rather than approach mode, which I am using. It's all up to you. You can certainly use it in map mode, as we really don't need to focus our eyes outside the PFD for what we'll be doing. If you haven't already, set your missed approach altitude in the altitude window. At 1,000 feet, the first officer will say,
Passing 1,000 feet, instruments cross check.
Captain responds, runway 12 left, cleared to land. He may also check his instruments. Now, that is assuming that you are cleared to land. We don't have ATC in these procedures, but it will be something you'll have to pick up. ATC in this stage of the flight is simple. Just have your frequencies for approach and tower preset on the comm panel so you can switch between them. Now the first officer will do the landing checklist. At 500 feet, the first officer announces,
500 feet.
Now you're looking for the runway lights, although it doesn't matter because you have no minimums on a Cat 3 approach. Sometime you should try landing this bird in 0-0 conditions with this same procedure to see how exciting that is. It's very interesting when you don't see the runway until the nose wheel starts to come down. The final things we look for from an Autoland are the armed flight mode annunciations to become active. At 45 feet AGL, the flare mode will turn active and the aircraft will flare while pulling out thrust and idle will engage on the left. When we're just about to touch down, rollout becomes active. Now bring in reverse thrust, verify you've got braking action with auto brakes, and continue to slow it on down. Amazingly, the Autoland system is still in control, steering the aircraft on the runway. This amount of precision is astounding. At 80 knots, take out reverse thrust, turn off the autopilot, and prepare to vacate the active runway.